I shall take up the second example and we'll try to solve this problem using Vogel's approximation method. And once you're perfect with this, then we'll move on to maximization case problem. Okay? I hope all of you have this question with you. I have shared this question in the PDF document the other day. So this is example number 8.6. So 8.6 is example. So I'll directly take the question in the template so that we can save space in the board. Before we start with the problem, okay. So we are supposed to solve this problem using Vogel's approximation method. So before we start solving the problem, as you are aware, you are supposed to verify whether the given problem is a balanced transportation problem or not. You all have the question with you, example number 8.6. The question reads like this: find the initial solution to the forward transportation problem using Vogel's approximation method. Here they are given totally 3 rows, F1, F2, F3, and totally there are 3 columns again, D1, D2, D3, and the supply and demand is given to. Actually, the printing mistake has happened. It is actually 4 columns and 3 rows. Right? You can see that the total supply is 300 and the total demand is also 300, and therefore it is a balanced transportation problem, and we can straightly start solving the problem. So the 3 rows are F1, F2, and F3, and the 4 columns are D1, D2, D3, and D4. Okay. So let me write down the values in the first column. This is 3, 4, and 1. Let me write directly the values in the template so that I don't have to rewrite it again. Okay. So this is the first, second, and third. And then we have 3, second value is 2, and it is 5. Then it is 4, again it is 4, and then it is 3. Okay, and then we have 1, 2, and 2. The supply value is given as 100, 125, and 75. Okay, and the demand values are 120, 80, 75, and 25. Okay, so this is the question we have. Okay. First, as usual, we are supposed to verify whether the given problem is a balanced transportation problem or not. If you look at the total value of the supply, it comes to 300, and the total demand also is equal to 300, and therefore the problem is a balanced transportation problem. So can anyone please tell me what is the notation to be used to represent a balanced problem? How do we represent it? How do we represent the balanced problem in a mathematical notation? Can anybody please tell me that?
Summation AI is equal to summation BI. There exists IBM.
Okay, here summation AI is equal to summation BJ. There exists an initial basic solution. So this is how we are supposed to declare that the given problem is a balanced transportation problem. Only after writing this statement, we are supposed to start with the allocation. I'll just erase this part because they don't have the space here. Okay, but anyway, this has to be written, and after that, the allocation will be started. Okay. Now, in the Vogel's approximation method, it is also called as penalty corner method. Can anybody please tell me what is the meaning of the word penalty? How do we define penalty?
Lowest minus the difference between the lowest value and the next higher value.
Very good. The difference between the lowest value and the next higher value in each row as well as column represents penalty. Now let me start with the calculation of penalty P1. First, I am going to start calculating penalty column wise. I am taking the first column. I want everyone to please answer me so that we can just solve the problem together. In the first column, can you please tell me what is the lowest value?
1, sir.
1,
The
sir.
lowest is 1 and the next higher value is 3. So the difference of the lowest and the next higher is penalty, therefore the difference is 2. When you come to second column, the lowest value is 2 and the next higher is 3, therefore the difference is 1. In the third column, the lowest value is 3 and the next higher value is 4, therefore the difference is again 1. And in the fourth column, the lowest value is 1 and the next higher is 2 and the difference again becomes 1. Now we have got the values of the first set of penalties which are calculated on the basis of columns. Similarly, now I am supposed to calculate the values of penalty row wise. You are supposed to calculate penalty row wise. If you take the first row F1, the lowest value happens to be 1 and the next higher value is 3. Therefore, the difference becomes 2. In the second column row, the lowest value is 2 and the next higher value is 4. I cannot take 2. I think you all remember, you are supposed to always take the next higher value. You can take repeated value only if no other options are available. If the entire row becomes 2, 2, 2, 2, then we can take 2 minus 2. Otherwise, we should always go to the next higher value. So 2 and 4 are the values we need to be taken. So 4 minus 2 becomes again 2. Coming to the third row, the lowest value is 1 and the next higher value happens to be 2. So therefore the difference between 1 and 2 is 1. After successfully calculating the penalties both row as well as column wise, can anybody please tell me what is the next step to be done now? After calculating penalties?
Sending the highest number for the allocation.
Okay, you are supposed to find out the highest penalty value amongst entire values of P1, the highest penalty value happens to be 2. But here in this question, there are 3 places where the 2 is present. You can see 2 2s in row as well as 2 in columns. So whenever the highest penalty value happens to be a repetition or tie, you can take any one randomly. That means there are 3 possibilities here. Either I can select this 2 or I can select this 2 or this one. Out of these 3 2s, any 2 can be selected randomly. Let me just take this particular value. So whichever row or column you selected for allocation, it has to be marked by arrow mark. So this arrow indicates that I am selecting the first column for allocations. Now that I have selected the first column B1 for allocation, where am I supposed to do the allocation in the selected column?
1.
Yeah. So amongst the selected column, I should be making allocation to the lowest value or smallest value. So in first column, the smallest value happens to be 1. So I am doing the allocation for the element 1 by comparing the corresponding supply as well as corresponding demand. Out of 75 and 150, the lowest value happens to be 75. Therefore, here I can give the allocation. So if I am giving 75 as the allocation, then this will become 0 and I am supposed to subtract 70 from 120. So if I am subtracting 120 minus 75, I would get 45. Whichever row or column is becomes completely 0, it should be removed for further allocations. Since you can see the third row F3 has become 0, I am supposed to remove F3 from further allocations. So therefore, since F3 is removed, it will not calculate any penalty as per the third row is concerned. Now after the first penalty set, I am able to do one allocation first. Now the same step has to be continued as long as the entire demand becomes 0. Now let me calculate the value of P2, the second penalty. In the first column, you can see that since the last row is removed, only we are left with 2 elements in all the columns. So therefore, directly it is 5. So 4 minus 3, we get 1. 2 minus 3 is 1 again. 4 and 4 0. Even though it is same value of taking it because there is no other options available to me, and therefore the repeated value can be subtracted. And here in the fourth column, 2 and 1, the difference becomes 1. Okay. Now we will calculate the penalty for P2, which is row wise. In the first row, I think all the elements are intact. Therefore, there are no changes in penalty. Same as it is again right now. So it will be 2 and again it will be 2. And since the third row is already removed or deleted, we don't have any more penalties to be calculated. Now we have got all the values of P2 and P2 is obtained. Can you please tell me now which is the highest penalty value in P2?
2,
Two.
sir.
2.
Again, possibilities here. You can see that there are two twos here. You can see the first two are supposed to be in first row, and also there is one more to be second row. So you can select any of these randomly. Let me select the first row. So if I'm selecting the first row for allocation, now out of the 4 elements what we have here, I'm supposed to make the allocations to the lowest value. So the lowest value in the first row is 1. So 25 and 100 is there. So you can give 20. So if I'm giving 25 here, then this becomes 0 and this becomes 75. Okay? So we know that whichever row or column becomes 0, it has to be expected from further allocation. Therefore, D4 is 1. So we don't have to do any canonical calculations for D4. Now you can see that the matrix is further reduced. I think I've told you one very important step is today. Whenever you are talking about solving for Google's constitution method, please make sure that when it's getting reduced, the question can be solved as long as minimum 2 rows and 2 columns should be available. This has to be checked after every step. See whether the total number of rows and columns are at least 2. In case the number of columns or rows becomes less than 2, then we have to stop calculating penalty. Now, can you please tell me, can I calculate penalty 3? P3 is calculatable. Can we calculate P3?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why? Because you can see that there are minimum 2 rows and 3 columns. Anything more than 2 rows and 2 columns is perfectly fine. So we can still calculate penalty. So let me calculate the penalty P3. Again in P3, I think in the first column there is no change because the same elements are there. The difference is 1. Again, second column also the difference is again 1. And third column also no change. The difference is 0. We got 1, 1, 0 at the P3 value. Now let me calculate the value of P3 row wise. Here you can see that in the row, the matrix is further shrink. So in the first row, you can see the difference between 3 and 4. Therefore, the penalty becomes 1. In the second row, the difference is 2 and 4. The difference becomes 2. Now, if you compare the value of P3 row and column wise, can you please tell me which is the highest penalty now? Please look at P3 value and tell me which is the highest penalty.
2,
Hello?
sir.
2.
2, sir.
2 is the highest penalty. So if the 2 is available next to the second row, so this particular row is being selected. So in the second row, you can see that the lowest value happens to be 2. So for this 2, the allocations have to be 80 and 125 is there. So I can do 80 as the allocations. If I'm doing 80 as the allocation, this becomes 0 and this becomes 45. So 0 and 45. So as usual, since D2 becomes 0, I'm supposed to cancel this. So therefore the D2 is gone. Okay? So D2 is gone. Now you can see that the matrix is further reduced. Now can you please tell me, is still there is a possibility of solving penalties or it has to be stopped? How many rows and columns do you have now?
Can calculate.
Sorry?
We can calculate, sir.
We can calculate because you can see that still 2 rows and 2 columns are left. So we can do it. So we can go for calculating P4. So for calculating P4, you can see that in the first column, again the same elements are no changes, so the difference becomes 1. Now there is no need to calculate the penalty for the second column because it becomes 0. We remove it. Coming to the third column, again same element no changes, so the difference between 0 and 4 and 4 is 0. So we have got the values of P4. Now let's calculate the value of P4 row wise. So if you calculate the value of P4, if you look at the value of first row only 2 values are left, which is 3 and 4. So in 3 and 4, what is the difference now? So the difference happens 1. And in the second row, the values are only 2, that is 4 and 4. The difference becomes
0.
Okay. Now you can see that the P4 values are different. So which is the highest penalty now in the entire P4 value? It is 1. But again, if you are present in 2 different places, it is in first column and also it is in the first row. So you can select anyone randomly. So let me take the first column. This one I am taking. So selecting this particular column, then I am supposed to make the allocation to the lowest value. Out of 3 and 4, the lowest value happens to be 3. So you can see that 45 remaining here and 75 is remaining here. So between 75 and 45, the lowest value becomes 45. So I'm allocating 45 here, so that this becomes 0 and this becomes 30. Okay, this becomes 0 and that becomes 30. Since the value of D1 is 0, I can further experiment. Okay, now you can see that the matrix is further reduced. Now can you please tell me, is still calculation of penalty is possible or I have to stop at this stage?
Stop, sir.
Stop.
I have to stop here because you're only left with one single column. Only D3 column is left and there are only one particular row left. Therefore, I cannot be calculating penalties anymore because only the number of columns is reduced to only one. Please remember this condition carefully. Whenever the penalties are to be calculated, minimum 2 rows and 2 columns should be present. It's not or, it is and. Minimum 2 rows and 2 columns. So both columns and rows should be at least 2. But here, since the number of columns has become 1, I'll not be able to calculate penalty anymore. Now we can directly go for allocations. I think I told you yesterday also, if your allocations are correct, the last set of values should always be balanced. You can see that in a demand, total 75 to 80. If you look at the supply, 30 plus 45 equal to 70. That means the values are exactly matching. You can directly go for allocation. Let me take the first value 4. If I'm selecting this value 4 for allocation, you look at supply and look at demand, 30 and 75 is there. So directly I can take 30. So if I'm taking 30, this becomes 0 and this becomes 45. So the last value is again 4 here. You can see 45 and 45 is 80. So I can directly take 45 allocation here so that this becomes 0 and this also becomes 0. Now you can see that the entire demand as well as supply has become 0, indicating that the allocations are completed. Okay, so allocations are completed. So in Ogle's approximation method or in any method in transportation problem, the process will be completed when if all demand and supply become 0. That is exactly what has to be achieved. So since everything is 0 now, we can directly go for calculating of initial basic variable solution. So can anybody please tell me how to calculate initial basic variable solution now? How do we calculate that? You are supposed to multiply the allocated value into unit transportation cost. Allocated value and unit transportation cost, if you multiply and add all of them, then that will give you initial basic variable solution. Okay, so let me start solving it. Totally, how many allocations we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 allocations are there. So I'm writing the answer here. The initial basic variable solution is equals to 45 into 3. I want people to please do the calculation.
135.
135.
135 plus 30 into 4, 120 plus 25 into 1 is 25 plus 80 into 2 is 160 plus 45 into 4 is 180 and finally 75 into 1 which will come to 70. Can you please add all this value into one answer?
695.
95.
695, sir.
So the answer would be 695. So the initial basic variable solution for this problem happens to be 695. So this is a very important question again, and that's the reason why I wanted to solve one more question today, so that if you have any doubts or any hit in as far as solving the problem, I think it should be clear then. Now, can I assume that everybody is perfect with Ogle's approximation method?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because this method is very
Yes,
important.
sir.
Because if you want to calculate the Modi method or optimality solution, the basis is Ogle's approximation method. So only when you know perfectly the Ogle's approximation method, your Modi method becomes simple. Otherwise, it becomes absolutely difficult, and that's a case study question overall. And therefore, there is no question of leaving it as a choice. You have to understand that Modi method clearly. Okay. Now, I think we have successfully completed 3 methods. Can anybody please tell me which are the 3 methods we have discussed so far? The 3 methods in IBFS. Which is the first method?
Northwest
NWCR,
corner rule.
sir.
Okay, the first method is northwest corner rule method. Very good. Method number 2.
Least
Least
cost.
cost method.
Very good. And method number 3.
Vogel's
Vogel's-
approximation method.
Okay, so these are the 3 methods which are used to calculate the initial feasible solution. Okay, so whenever you have a question on calculating the initial basic feasible solution, or just they would ask you a question like calculate the transportation cost. It again depends on examiners. So they will use the word either only transportation cost, or they might use the word initial basic feasible solution. If they very specifically ask you the method by which it has to be solved, then the same method has to be employed. If there is no mention of method, or if simply the question is about calculate the transportation cost, then you are free to use any method of your choice. Out of 3 methods, you can take any method and you can solve the problem. That is the advantage you have in case if they have not specified the method. Okay, is that clear to you, everyone? Have you all understood clearly?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I think today morning I have shared one PDF document to you. Did you all check the document? Just before the class, I shared a PDF document.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that PDF document carries the questions on maximization case. Now, before we take up the Modi method, I thought first I'll complete the maximization case problem. And once you are perfect with the maximization case problem, then we'll move on to optimal solution. Okay. So maximization problem we'll solve now. So once the maximization is done, I think probably next class or tomorrow, we can start with the Modi method. Okay. Yeah. So I want everyone to please open the PDF document if you can and just go through the question once, and then I'll try to explain how exactly this problem has to be solved. Okay. The first question here is, what is the maximization case problem? Okay. If you look at any operation research problem, usually we classify the operation research problems as maximization case and minimization cases. Now, when you are classifying the problem as maximization or minimization, the logic is very simple. Whenever we have an objective of finding the profits, is there anybody in the universe who would say that I want minimum profit? Do you see any company or any businessman saying that? No, right? Whenever we talk about profit, invariably we always want the profits to be larger, or we want more profits. Similarly, when we talk about revenue, everybody wants to have higher revenue. If somebody wants to talk about market share, everybody says we want to have a better market share or bigger market share. So there are specific situations or instances where the people always makes an effort to enhance it or increase it. So they all come under the category of maximization. Okay, so maximization case problems are those cases where you are making an effort to enhance the economic barometers. Profit is one of the examples, revenue is the second example, market share is the third example, total sales volume is the fourth example. I think in all these examples, the companies would be making an effort to maximize or to increase it. In contrary, there are some specific cases where the companies also would like to minimize things as well. Okay, they would like to even minimize. Can you please tell me, in the same example like profit, revenue and stuff like that, are there any specific areas where the companies would like to minimize? Where the companies like to minimize?
Wastage, sir.
Very good. The loss is something which companies like to minimize. Nobody would say that I want to make more losses. Good. Any other example that you can think of where the companies want to minimize?
A production cost, sir.
Cost, generally cost. It can be any cost for that matter. It can be direct or indirect cost. As a whole, the cost is something which companies would like to minimize. Very good. So one is the loss and second one is the cost. Any other examples can we think of?
Wastage, sir. Wastage.
Wastage, very good. Wastage is something which companies would like to keep at minimum. Very nice. Right. Number one, cost. Number two, loss, and number 3 wastage. Next, any other examples?
Taxes, sir.
Sorry?
Taxes. Tax.
Taxes, yes, but again, it is not a very ethical way of doing it, right? Because if you are trying to minimize your tax, only by unethical practices you can do it. It is not something which is legally appreciated if you are trying to reduce the tax or evade the tax. Of course, people do it. I'm not saying that they don't do it. They definitely go a backdoor entry for doing it. But on ethical front, reducing tax or making efforts to reduce tax is something not very appreciated. Okay. Anyway, we can definitely see this is happening in industry for a very long time now. Okay. Any other examples that we can think of where minimization is basically tried by the companies? Can we take an example of employee attrition?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because attrition is again becoming a very big problem these days in industries, and it has become very challenging for the companies to hold their employees, because the employees don't mind to switch over to a different company for very small benefits. If the competitor company is promising them to give just few hundreds or few thousands more, they're just reluctant, they're just, without any hesitation, they move on. So it is becoming a big challenge for the companies these days to hold their employees, because the employees are assets in many companies, particularly when you are talking about knowledge-based industries like IT companies, biotechnology, and many such industries. I think the employees are the key strength. They are the assets. In case if a very, a strategic guy or a very key person of a company leaves the organization, I think the entire organization will suffer. So keeping attrition at the lowest possible level is also definitely an important objective which the companies are looking at. So from all these examples, one thing is very clear. There are specific components which companies always makes an effort to increase, and on contrary, there are specific areas where the companies make an effort to reduce or keep it minimum. Here, today in transportation problem, we are coming across a specific case of transportation problem, which is called as maximization case. Now, let me go back to the first 3 methods. The first 3 methods that we discussed now, which is Northwest Corner Rule method, least cost method, and Ogle's approximation method, all the 3 methods were invariably the minimization case problems. Why am I saying it as minimization case? Can you please tell me? Can you please tell me the reason for that? Why did I say Northwest Corner Rule, least cost method, and Ogle's approximation method are minimization case problems? Is there any specific reasons for that? Can anybody please throw some light on that particular factor? Hello? I want people to please answer. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for me to, get connected.
Sir, in the previous 3 cases, we were trying to match the demand and supply, sir. Therefore, we were trying to reduce the wastage or cost or something like that.
Or in simple word, the initial basis
So
of
we
feasibility,
selected.
it is nothing but the transportation cost, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the moment the word cost comes into picture, invariably it becomes the minimization case. You don't worry about what type of cost we are calculating. It can be any type of cost. The moment the word cost comes into picture, then automatically it becomes a minimization case. Since Northwest Corner Rule method, Ogle's approximation method, and least cost method, all the 3 methods were meant for calculating the transportation cost. Since we were calculating the transportation cost, they were all minimization case problems. Now we are going for the second level of questions here, which is called as maximization case problems. Okay. Now, what do you mean by maximization case problem? I think already we have taken some examples to understand which are the components comes under maximization. Even in transportation also, there can be an objective of the company to understand what is the total profit they achieve, or what is the total consignment they transport, what is the total volume of business they generate. So it is not necessary that always in the transportation problem, we only look at the transportation cost. There are other dimensions also which we would be interested to understand. So which are the other dimensions in transportation problem? it can be profit, it can be total consignment transported, it can be volume of business generated, it can be the utility of space within that consignment or within that container. All this usually comes under the ambit of maximization because the companies would be interested to increase all of them. No company would say that I want to decrease my profits. Obviously, when it comes to profit, it is obviously they want to enhance it. So this is exactly where the profit maximization comes into picture. Now, how do we solve the problem in maximization case? That's the next question. Please remember, we don't have a separate method to solve the problems in maximization case. That is one of the important limitations. Unlike transportation cost, which all comes under minimization, we don't have separate methods or separate mechanism to solve maximization case problem. So therefore, the first and foremost requirement in maximization problem is, since we don't have an approach, we will convert maximization problems into minimization problem and solve the problem by using the same previous methods. And finally, when you're writing the answer, we make some modifications to the final answers. This is how it is done. I'm repeating it again. Since we don't have a separate mechanism or separate procedure for solving the problems in maximization, we use the concept of minimization again here to solve the problems on maximization. So unlike minimization case, we don't have three different methods here. The same methods have to be used in maximization case also. But before we use these three methods to solve maximization, we are supposed to make some modifications to question. Now question is modify. Only after making that modification in the question, then the problem becomes ready for solving in minimization case. Did you all understand the concept now? Everyone clearly? Did you all understand the difference between maximization and minimization now? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think once you're clear with the concept, let's start with the question. Let me take the first question. If you can please open that PDF document which is shared in the morning. I think there are two questions which are given there for maximization case. I'll take up the first question. I'll take the first question now. Yeah. Okay, let me read the question. I want everyone to please listen to the question carefully so that you understand how the question is framed here. A company has 3 plants A, B, and C, and 3 warehouses. Sorry, it's not the one. Yeah, so this is the question. Example number 8.14. There are 3 factories A, B, C which supply goods to 4 dealers D1, D2, D3, D4. The production capacities of these 3 factories are 1,700 and 900 units per month respectively. The requirements from the dealers are 900, 800, 500 and 400 units per month respectively. The per unit retail excluding the transportation cost are rupees 8, rupees 7 and rupees 9 at the 3 factories. The following table gives the unit transportation cost from the factories to the dealers. They have given the 3 factory value ABC and the 4 columns D1, D2, D3, D4 is given to you. Determine the optimum solution to maximize the total returns. This question, the key point to be looked at here is the word maximum. Otherwise, the way we construct the question in maximization and minimization, there is absolutely no difference. So question kotaga, please don't be in a hurry. In the question paper, whenever you have a question on transportation problem, please read the verbal part of the question carefully. I think I've seen most of the people are in a very hurry. They will not even read the question. They just look at the table and start directly solving the problem. Don't do that. Okay? Please read the verbal part. A verbal part only, clearly the word maximum will be used. Whenever you come across the word maximum in the question, then invariably it comes under maximization case. Maximum enadru agirbodu. It can be anything. It can be maximum profit, it can be maximum revenue, maximum sales, it can be anything. Don't worry about the other part. The word maximum, the adjective maximum is important in the question. So if at all you come across the word maximum there, then you can come to a conclusion that it's a maximization case problem. Okay? Now I think it's very clear that it's a maximization case problem. But unlike the previous methods, which was very simple, demand, supply, everything was given in the question, so you could easily solve the problem. But here, instead of giving demand, supply, everything in table, they've given in the verbal state. So you should be able to first rewrite the entire question as per the standard format. First, you have to write down the problem in a standard format so that you will not have any confusion as far as solving the problem is concerned. Okay? Yeah. First, let me first write down the question in the standard format, and then we will think about how to convert the maximum problem to minimization. Are you all able to understand till here now about the question part? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let me first write down the question as per the standard format, and then we'll start solving the problem. Okay? Yeah. So let me write the question now. The question is given like this: A, B, and C are the three factors. D1, D2, D3, and D4 are the four distributors. So we have problems like this. Okay. First, let me write down the question here. So the values are given as 2, 3, and 4, and this is 2, 5, and 3, and this is 2, 3, and 2, and the last D4 is 4, 2, and 1. This is the data given to you. If you look at the verbal part, I think in the second line there are mentioned the production capacity of these factories are 1,000, 700, and 900 units per month respectively. Now, what do you mean by production capacity? The production capacity is with respect to factories. So, totally how many factories are there? A, B, and C, and 3 factories are there. For these 3 factories, they are given production capacity. So, I am supposed to write out the value of the factory. So, from this, you can clearly understand that it is not necessary that always we use the word demand supply. They might use different terminologies. Here, instead of using demand and supply, they've used the words capacity, and also they have given requirement. Requirement and capacity are the 2 words used here. So this way, they can use the other terminologies to define the problem. Am I clear now? Okay. So the capacity is given now. So the capacity of the 3 factories are 1,000 for A, and for B it is 700, and for C it is 900. Have you all understood how I could write the values for ABC now, everybody? Did you all understand this step?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the capacities are given for 3 plants, which is ABC. I have written the capacity. Similarly, I am supposed to write one more set of values, which is coming column wise. And here the column wise are represented by distributing companies. They have given that the requirements from the dealers are 900, 800, 500, and 400 units per month respectively. So the capacity is given, and the next thing what they are given is the requirements. The requirement is given. The requirements for all the 4 distributors are given here. So which are the 4 requirements now? That is 900, and then it comes to 800, then it comes to 500, and 4 is 400. So this is the question. Okay, so instead of directly giving you capacity and requirement in table form, in the examination they might give data something like this. So you should be able to read the data clearly and complete the question. Has everybody understood till this step very clearly? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
it clear? Okay. Now, still the question is not ready because there is one more data given to you apart from this. It says the per unit return. Now, what do you mean by returns? What is the meaning of the word returns?
Something
Profit,
which
sir.
is given back.
Returns are nothing but the profit, right? The profits that you get from each unit. So they've given that the per unit return, excluding the transportation cost, is 8 rupees, 7 rupees, and 9 rupees at 3 factories. It's a common policy. For all the products that are manufactured at factory A, you are getting a returns of rupees 8. Similarly, for all the product that is manufactured at factory B, you are getting a returns of rupees 7. And for all the units that are manufactured or prepared at factory C, you are getting a returns of 9 rupees. This is an additional data. But since we are supposed to calculate profits here, the profit is always the total revenue minus total cost. Do you all remember? Do you all agree with that? How do we calculate profit? Profit is equals to total cost minus total revenue minus total cost. So the profit is in the simple formula. Profit is equals to total cost minus total revenue minus total cost. From the total revenue, if you are able to subtract all the cost, then we will get the profit. Now, since the question is about maximizing the profit, first I have to find out what is the profit that we are getting for each component. Idi problem nalle now first profit values na calculate madam. That is what we are supposed to do. So, in order to calculate the profit, this data is used. Please understand, there is a very important point given here. The per unit written in the brackets they are given that excluding transportation cost. That means whatever values that they've given here, that is 2, 2, 2, 4 and all that, it is not included. That means when I'm calculating the profit table, I am supposed to subtract all this transportation cost and only then I'll be able to find out the profit. Do you all understand now? Are you able to understand clearly? This is a question. Instead of directly giving the data, they have made a lot of adjustments to be done. Okay, so I have taken a slightly complex question at the first instance so that you can understand what are the variations that is possible in the transportation problem. Okay, they have given the revenues, they have given the individual transportation cost here. I am supposed to calculate profit. So profit is nothing but the total revenue minus total cost. They have given the total revenue for factory A as 8 rupees. The total revenue for factory B is 7 rupees. And the total revenue for factory C is 9 rupees. Now the revenues are given to you. The cost is here. By subtracting that, we get the profit. So with this data, I am supposed to make a new table. So what is the new table here? I'm writing here A, B, and C. This is D1, D2, D3, and D4. This is capacity, and this is requirement. These values will not change. Always only the main matrix will change. The demand capacity will never change. It will remain as it is. We are not supposed to make any changes to these values. Okay. Now let me write the new set of values. The question paper very clearly says for the factory A, the revenue is how much? The revenue is 8 rupees. For this it is 8 rupees. For this it is 7 rupees. And for this it is 9 rupees. For factory A it is 8 rupees. Factory B is 7 rupees. And factory C it is 9 rupees. Apply this formula. Profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost. Now this is your total revenue to all the three factories, and the total cost is nothing but your transportation cost. So individually, I have to calculate the profit value for all the sales. Did you get my point till here, everybody? Did you all understand this step?
Yes, sir.
So total revenue given ABC, the total cost is nothing but the transportation cost here, which is also given to you. By subtracting that, we will get the profit. So now I am supposed to first generate a profit table. How do I do? Let me look. For the first row A, the revenue is 8 rupees, which is common to the entire row. So 8 minus 2, it becomes 6. 8 minus 2, again it is 6. 8 minus 2, again it is 6. And 8 minus 4, it is 4. The capacity will not change, it will remain as this profit. You all understood this, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now similarly, let me find out for the second value. The total revenue for the second value is 7 rupees. So 7 I will subtract for the entire row. So 7 minus 3, it is 4. 7 minus 5, it is 2. 7 minus 3, it is 4 again. And 7 minus 2, 5. And the capacity is 700. We'll write as it is. Now we'll come back to 3, that is third row. C, the total revenue is 9 rupees. So 9 minus 4, it is 5. 9 minus 3, it is 6. 9 minus 2, it is 7. 9 minus 1, it is 8. And this is 9 rupees. Requirement also no changes. We write as it is. It is 900. It is 800. It is 500. And this is 400. Now the question is in the standard form. Till now, whatever manipulation or modifications we have done, we were only trying to create the actual problem. Now this is the table, the last table what we have. This is the actual data, or this is the problem from which we are supposed to find the solution. Example in Martaranga, they might not give you question to do a lot of such modifications. Directly they make this data. I think the second question which I have given in PDF document, it is something like this. Directly the profit table will be given to you. You can straight away convert to minimization case and solve the problem. But here, before we start solving the problem, we need to make a lot of manipulations or modifications to questions and put it in the standard form and then solve it. These are extra steps. So usually so many extra steps will not come, but we never know in the examination that any question could ask. That's why I wanted you to be ready with all such variations. Okay? Till here everybody is clear? Everybody is understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this is the actual question on which the problem has to be solved. This is the original question or not. This is the original question. This is the problem, or this is the point from where the problem has to be solved. Okay. Now this is basically a problem. As I already said, we don't have a separate mechanism or separate method to solve maximization case problems. The same three methods, that is the Northwest Corner Rule method, least cost method, and Ogle's approximation method, has to be used to solve maximization problem also. We don't have a separate method for it. But the three methods which we already have solved, they are suitable only for minimization case. They are not meant for maximization case. Since they are not meant for maximization case, I cannot directly take the method as it is. This maximization case problem first has to be converted to minimization. First I have to convert to minimization, and after converting to minimization, then I can use any of the three methods and solve the problem. There is one advantage in maximization case problem, they will not specify the method. They will not say that find the maximum profit using NWCR method or using Ogle's method or using least cost method. You are free to use any method of your choice. My suggestion is, in any problem in transportation, if they have not mentioned the method, you always use first method, that is NWCR method, because it is very simple and very easy to solve. You don't unnecessarily waste your time by taking Ogle's method. In case if they are mentioned Ogle's method, then you have no choice, that's a different story. But if that freedom is given to you, then always go for method 1, because it is very simple and without any issues or without any mistakes, you can easily complete the problem. Okay, I'll quickly just solve this problem. Now we have this maximization case problem. Now, how to convert maximization to minimization? That's the next step. I'm just writing it here. Please look at the book carefully. Okay. A simple procedure that is followed to convert maximization problem to minimization is identify the highest value in the entire table. That's the only step here. I'm repeating it again. The process employed in converting maximization problem to minimization is identify the highest value in the entire problem. Can you please tell me which is the highest value in the entire problem now? In this profit table, you should not take demand, requirement, only the matrix. How much?
8.
8
8,
highest
sir.
value. See that 8 is the highest value. Now what are you supposed to do with this 8? Very simple. This 8 has to be subtracted from all the elements of the table. Every element in the table has to be subtracted from the highest value. By doing that, a new values will come, and that is called as minimization case problem. Artha, do you all understand? A simple procedure followed here is
Yes,
the
sir.
way to convert maximization to minimization is very simple. Identify the highest value and subtract every single element from the highest value. By doing that, we get a new set of value that will be automatically called as minimization case problem. Okay, so let me start doing it now. So we have 3 rows as it says A, B, C, and 4 columns D1, D2, D3, D4. Okay, straight away I'm writing the problems in the template so that I can directly solve the problem. Okay. Can you please tell me what is the first value now?
2.
2, because 8 minus 6 from the highest value, individual value should be subtracted. So the first value is 2. Good. Second value?
2.
2. Very good. Third value?
2.
2, very good. And fourth value?
4.
4, very good. Here the demand and supply will not change anywhere. As it is here, this is capacity. How much we have? 1000. This is 700, and this is 900. Here also, right? Requirement. So requirements are 900. This is 800. This is 500, and this is 400. Okay? Yeah. Can you please tell me the values for the second row now? Quickly.
4.
4, very good. 6.
6.
Yeah.
4.
4.
3.
3. Good. Last set of rows. 3.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And this is 0. Now the question is successfully converted to minimization case. Now I am free to solve this problem by any of the 3 methods. Either I can solve this problem by NWCR method, or I can solve by least cost method, or I can solve by Vogel's approximation method. It is up to your choice. Since they have not mentioned any specific methods to be used, you are free to use any of the methods. As I already said, whenever they have not mentioned any method, it is always better to solve by first method. Can you please solve this problem by Northwest Corner Rule method quickly now? But
Yes.
before we solve this particular problem, first you should always verify whether the given problem is balanced or not. Is it balanced or unbalanced?
Balance, sir.
Balance, sir.
So you can see that the capacity comes to 2600, and the requirement also is 2600. Therefore, the problem is ready to solve, no issues. Okay. So let's start solving this problem by our Northwest Corner Rule method. So Northwest Corner Rule method means what? From where I am supposed to start the allocations?
From northwest, sir.
From the northwest element. Which is the northwest element here?
2.
2. I am starting from 2. So as usual, 1900. So 900 is the value. So this becomes 0, and this becomes 100. Since it is 0, it is gone. Now you can see the northwest element is 2. 100 is there, 800 is there. So I can take 100. This becomes 700, and this becomes 0. Therefore, A is completely gone. Now the matrix is reduced to this much. The northwest element is 6. 700 and 700 is there. So I can take the entire 700. This becomes 0, and this also becomes 0. Therefore, B is also gone, and D2 is also gone. Now I am left with the last 2 elements, 1 and 0. 1 is the northwest element. 500 and 900 is there. So I can take 500. This becomes 0, and this becomes 400. So even D3 is gone. And the last element is 0. Since both the values 400, I can take entire 400. This also becomes 0, and this also becomes 0. Now you can see that the entire demand and supply is completed. Therefore, the problem is solved. But when you are calculating the final answer, that is the maximum profit, I cannot use the same procedure. Now, what was the procedure we used to follow for finding the initial basic feasible solution? Directly we used to multiply this 900 into 2 plus 100 into 2 plus 7 into 6 and add it. But now in maximization problem, you are not supposed to do that. This is one more extra correction. How you are supposed to do? Please understand this carefully. See how many cells is allocations. Let us say allocation is there 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 allocations. Allocation values anyway it's there, but you are not supposed to multiply 900 into 2. No, because these values are reduced values. It is not the question. This is something that we have done to solve the problem. So therefore, when I am finding the final answer, I cannot multiply by this value. I should multiply this 900 by the original value of this particular position. Can you please tell me what was the original value for 2 in the table?
6.
Are you understanding now? So I am not multiplying directly 900 into 2. 900 has to be multiplied by the original value of this cell. For all the allocations, same procedure has to be applied. Now, can you please quickly tell me now? 900 into the position 6. So 900 into 6 is the first value. Plus second value 100 into what is the value here? 100 into 6. plus third value.
Into
700 into how much we get? 2. 700 into 2. Okay? Plus next value is here 500. C. So 500 into 7. 500 into 7. And the last value is 400 into 0. 0 400 into 8. Into 400 into 8. Can you please multiply and add the final answer now? Anybody?
14100.
14100. So this is the answer. So the maximum profit for this particular problem happens to be 14,100 rupees. This is how we solve the maximization test problem. Did you all understand this section clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the important changes here? What is the first thing that we did?
Convert maximize table into
Convert
minimum.
maximization problem to minimization. So how do we convert maximization to minimization? By taking the highest value. Yeah, highest value, you should subtract the entire value. And then once the table is ready, you can use any of the methods and solve the problem. But finally, when you are calculating the total profit or maximum profit, you should not multiply the allocations directly with the value. Instead, you should multiply with the original values. That is this table. From the original value, these values have to be multiplied. Okay. Since it's already 11 o'clock, we'll stop at this stage. I just quickly want to tell you how to solve question number 2. I think second question, which is example 8.15 are given, right? Our problem will end in that. Directly they've given you, please open that question, everybody, if you have, very quickly. Example 8.15, the second PDF file, the second is the problem. Solve the following problem to maximize the profit. Again, the word maximum is given to you, so therefore it is maximization case. Previous problem tara, we don't have to do any modifications here because everything is directly done and final table is given to you. Table is the same table is given to you. So the only thing that you have to do in this particular problem is convert this problem to minimization. So how do you convert it to minimization here? What are you supposed to do?
Subtract from the highest number.
Select the highest value in the table.
What's the highest value in the table? Highest value is
90.
90, sir.
Every element should be subtracted from 90. Then a new will come like this, and then you can solve the problem by NWCR method. But finally, when you're finding the value, that is the total profit, multiply with the original value. That's all. Okay. So this is far more simple question because directly the data is given to you. No modifications, no alterations is required. Straight away convert to minimization and get the answer. Can you please try the second question and give me the answer tomorrow, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want everyone to please solve. My sincere request to the whole class is all our efforts becomes completely waste if you are not solving or practicing the problem on daily basis. Because the OR syllabus is very vast and lot of concepts, lot of problems are there. If you don't practice on daily basis, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for you during the exams. So my sincere request is on daily basis practice and problems. Okay. Otherwise, this is not going to really help you anyway. Okay. Yeah. So please solve this question and come back tomorrow. We will see the answer and then we'll proceed with the new method. Okay. So is it fine with everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Feedback from your side before we stop the class for the day. Now you're able to adopt to this method. Is it clear? The voice clarity, the way I'm solving the problem, the speed, everything is fine with all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You want to speed a bit or the speed is okay with? Hello?
Yes,
This
sir.
is okay, sir.
Okay. In case if you have any specific feedback or suggestions to improve this process further, please feel free to tell me so that we can make it much better so that everybody is able to grasp the things in the classes. Okay, fine. So thank you all. I think we can end the class for the day and we'll continue tomorrow. Please solve the second question and come back and we'll continue. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
sir.